Okay, good evening everybody. My name is Max. I wanted to go over a couple of details. I'm going to be running the channel Serpa. So I wanted to run through some things that the channel is going to be focusing on, some things I wanted you guys to have information about me, about what we're doing and what our goals are here. So keep things pretty straightforward. My background, I was 4 years active duty in the United States Army. I was a drone pilot or a drone operator, whatever you want to call it. And we can get into some of the details of that at a later video. I also own a construction company, and that is not to be a little selfish plug right there. The reason I'm bringing that up is because that experience that I have from that in terms of building or dealing with disasters is extremely relevant from that perspective. And I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from, where my information is coming from, and I guess where my expertise is and why you should listen to me. So I wanted to bring that up and be clear with you guys. So my goal with this channel is really straightforward. My goal is to actually build a community with this. Not the kind of community where you view it and I just call you guys my community and it's just kind of a one-way thing. I want this to be something that the entire group of individuals or the entire channel has access to, in terms of we have a form of communication. It is direct and we can actually organize and develop something if anything happens in terms of a disaster response. We want to be able to do this by geographical location. And that way, rather than just any other channel where you're in the comments or you join some random Discord, everything is chaotic. We want to actually make it somewhat direct. So you have access to people around you who are interested in the same topic. You're able to make friends with similar or like-minded ideas as you. You're able to run into people who are able to help and assist you more directly than I can. And with all of that, you can actually organize and develop a system where we have a disaster response plan for your area for almost any response, any disaster type. And I think that could be really huge. I don't know of anybody else who's doing this or trying to format this in this manner with this kind of communication. So that's where I'm going for on this. That's the whole goal of this. The videos are just going to be subsequent. What we want to do is training, basically, to get everybody brought up to speed and on the same page so that when these things do happen, we know exactly what everyone has to bring, what everyone has to offer, and we know what everybody's baseline is. We don't have anybody just showing up and being kind of a nuisance to something they are trying to help with. And even though they're coming with good intent, they just simply don't have the tools or the knowledge to do it. And we're trying to make sure that that is something that everyone who watches this has. So that's where we're going to be coming from. Now, obviously, with the YouTube channel, there's going to be videos. We're going to have two types of videos. One is going to be kind of a long-term format, so 20 minutes or more. We may have some shorts, but we're going to focus on kind of the long-term stuff because training takes time. We're going to have what we call inbound, so that's going to be personal prepping, personal preparedness. So that's going to be inbound to you, what you can do to be better prepared, to help your family, your friends, to help the individuals that would be relevant to your direct circle, on your property, in your apartment, in your place. How can you be helpful? How can you make it so that you are a bastion of your community or your family, something that everybody knows they can go to when something happens or there's security there? From there, I want to talk about doing outbound. That's basically what to pack, what to bring, what you need to go out and to be an asset in your community or in the disaster zone, that has, become of your community. How can you be involved in that? How can you make yourself an asset to your local PD? How can you be an asset to the local search and rescue? How can you be an asset as a group? How can you be effective? So we want to go through that as well, and that's going to be in our outbound format. We're going to try to do one every other week, so an inbound, outbound, inbound, and so on and so forth. So that's where we're going to be coming from on these videos. And they're going to cover a variety of different training, from medical to what gear you should want to have, why we use it, how to kind of standardize everything, and how to make this simple for yourself and others and make sure that it is dummy proof when it comes to both sides. So we're able to work effectively with ourselves and with each other. From there, I wanted to bring up just a couple of stories as to why I wanted to start this and why I'm doing this. So I believe I have some experience. This is something I've been very interested in for a very long time, and I really haven't taken the leap. So I want to be able to give this a try and kind of put this out there. And I wanted to bring up two stories that really ended up bringing my focus to this. So we had Helene come through last year. I don't need to do much explaining there. Obviously, it affected, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, South and North Carolina. Were both very affected by this. And I got to see for the first time how ill-prepared 85 out of 100 people seem to be doing this. And in my background in construction, I got to see firsthand how little people have to secure their homes when this stuff happens, when winds come through or floods come through or rains come through. They just don't even have the tools to do anything. They don't have, generators. They don't have any material. They don't have any knowledge on how to properly take care of the house after something like that happens. And that seemed to spread community-wide. And it was so bad here that the local, state, federal response was almost non-existent. The police weren't even coming in. We never saw one the whole time. We had no assistance from any outside force, and there was worstly affected areas than just Savannah. But it was pretty incredible to see how lackluster everything was. The only thing that we saw that seemed to be coordinated was really just trash pickup. That's it. We were without power for many days. The majority of people don't have generators. The majority of people didn't have food for the 3 days to a week that the power was out everywhere. It was really interesting to see how poorly prepared everybody was. And fortunately, it was decently organized by the local community. And that was done by, a handful of people who had the tools necessary to facilitate actual assistance. So that was really interesting to see. I was glad to be a big part of that. The second thing I want to bring up that really pushed me to do this is we had some major flooding last year, not as a result of Helene. This was its own individual thing. We had what we would call ground flooding here, so it didn't spill over, over a creek, or it didn't burst through a levee. It's just we're so close to the water table here that the water just came up from the ground. And this affected very large and very spread out swaths of ground all over the area. And I'll put some pictures on for both Helene and this flooding that I'm talking about here in the video so you can see it. The flooding was pretty insane. I mean, it was enough where I'm kayaking through streets and we are helping people get out of their homes because it's too deep to walk in. And the only response was from a local level. They showed up in their cruisers and they spent the entire time doing everything they can to literally hinder the effort that was being put in by everyone that was there helping. And it was totally a local helping event. There was no assistance from anybody until way later in the night after people would have been in some serious trouble. When we arrived, there were 2 cruisers. The water had pretty much inundated one of the main roads going into the city. And the volunteers were trying to offload their materials directly next to the water so we could get it to the old folks' home that was totally surrounded. It was a little island. Every time we did that, the police would run up to us, yell at us, they'd make us move. We'd have to walk all our equipment about a half mile to the actual flood site and get everything unloaded there, which means we had to also walk all of the victims that far with all of their stuff, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts. And I understand if it was a safety thing, but they would really push that. Even when we were coming out to grab stuff, they were spending more time making sure that we were nowhere near an already closed road and having to walk the dirtiest, muddiest, most disgusting route possible to get back. And I was just really blown away by how poorly organized or how much of a power trip these individuals were on. But that was organized entirely locally, just by civilians like you and I. We showed up with kayaks and boats, food and water, and we made sure that supplies as they were needed, which were donated usually by local churches, were getting to their destinations, and people were getting out of their homes, like I said, they were stuck in, grabbing important documents. The city had no interest in helping. The state obviously was never involved, and I don't think federally they ever really knew about it. But I was pretty dumbfounded at how lackluster the response was, and I wanted to therefore be more involved. I saw the community was interested. Nobody really had any central command system, and the organization there was really bad until we had individuals that were able to come in and kind of take control or had experience in it. And I just really wanted to find a way to sever that bad communication, that bad organization. So I wanted to start this. I wanted to get people who are interested, because they're obviously out there. There were dozens of people out there helping. And I want to be able to build something that's more effective than what we had there, that's more organized and more well funded and situated. So that's going to be our goal here. I wanted to bring all of this stuff up so you guys understand where we're coming from in this channel, and as a callback for myself to make sure that we remain on topic and our goal stays clear. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm going to wrap everything up here. I hope you guys have an immaculate rest of your day, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.